Welcome to part 3 of the series where we're looking at the transfer of a defined benefit or final salary pension scheme to a personal pension. So we've looked at the different scenarios that you need to consider, and now I'm going to look at the reasons why you might want to transfer a final salary scheme. Early retirement. You can generally only take a final salary benefit at the scheme pension age, and if you want to retire early, there's generally penalties for doing so. Personal pensions can currently be accessed from age 55, although we think that age will probably rise. Tax-free cash. You might want more tax-free cash than the final salary scheme is offering. Generally speaking, the amount of tax-free cash that can be accessed from a personal pension is higher than that of a final salary scheme. Also, you can choose to take as much as you want from a personal pension after age 55. Now, 25% of the fund is tax-free, and the rest is taxed at whatever rate is applicable to you at that time. With a final salary scheme, you can usually only take a one-off lump sum at the outset. And usually you have to take the ongoing regular income at that time as well. Flexible access. You might want to take tax-free cash but not the ongoing income, and you generally can't do that with a final salary scheme. With a personal pension, you can just access the tax-free cash up to 25%, and you can then leave the rest of it to take at another time. You might want to do that for tax reasons, or you might just want access to a lump sum to pay off something, some mortgage or debt, or just to have fun with, but you maybe don't need the income at that time. So there's much more flexible access from a pension pot. With a final salary scheme, you just can't choose when and how you access the pension. It's decided for you by the scheme. Dependents' benefits. Now, generally, final salary scheme income can only be passed on to a surviving spouse, and the income dies on the death of that spouse. Any unused personal pension fund can be passed on to anyone you want. So, for example, you could pass it to somebody you're not married to, or you could pass it to your children. You can't do that with a final salary scheme. Inheritance tax is another issue. Personal pensions can be a very efficient way to pass assets down through generations, and that's just not the case with final salary scheme, because the income dies when you or your spouse die. Investment control. A personal pension arrangement is under your control, so you choose where the funds are invested. With a final salary scheme, you generally have no input into investment management, and that's decided by the trustees of the scheme. You might be worried about the sponsoring employer. Many final salary schemes are underfunded at the moment because the funds needed to provide that guaranteed and inflation-proofed income are very substantial, and the value of those benefits has soared. Now, there is a pension protection fund which is designed as a safety net for failed final salary schemes. Some people would rather transfer the funds away than let it go to the pension protection fund, and the pension protection fund has some caps which may affect how much you would be able to take, and transferring away from the DB scheme to a personal pension secures the transfer value at the time, and as we've already said, the current transfer values are exceptionally high right now, partly because of how much it costs to provide those guarantees, and partly because interest rates and returns on investments are very low. Whether they will remain high depends on a number of unknown factors, so some people are just willing to cut and run and get the value now, so they don't want to risk a fall in the values, and transferring to a personal pension secures the current value. Of course, it could rise. But the message here is act in haste and repent at leisure. Decisions you're going to make with your final salary scheme can affect you and your family and potentially future generations. So it makes sense to explore your options fully and consider each aspect of the existing arrangement compared to a personal pension. And as we've seen in this series of videos, the benefits are very different. Just because your mate down the pub decided to transfer or not to transfer doesn't mean it's right for you. There's just too many variables for one size to fit all. So understanding the differences and working out what's most important to you about your pension should give you the confidence to make the right decision for you and your family. If you have any questions around your own circumstances, just leave a comment below this video and we'll get back to you.